This presentation is an introduction to adjective clauses. In this lesson, we will define adjective clauses and relative pronouns. We'll identify adjective clauses and main clauses, and we'll use the correct form of the relative pronoun and verb in the adjective clause. First, let's review what we know about a clause. In general, we can say a clause is a group of words that has a subject and a verb. Here's an example. When I was in elementary school. We're going to call this a time clause. When I was in elementary school lets you know the time the person is talking about. The clause, because Tom didn't have enough money, is a clause that gives a reason. It explains why something happened. Each clause has a subject and a verb. In the first clause, I was, and in the second, Tom didn't have. However, these are not complete ideas. They even sound unfinished. We hear, when I was in elementary school, and we wait for the main piece of information to follow. I loved to go to the library. That's our complete sentence. Now it makes sense. When I was in elementary school, I loved to go to the library. Similarly, because Tom didn't have enough money, only tells us a reason, but we want to know what happened. The main clause, he couldn't buy the car, explains what happened. Again, the sentence is finished only when we have a main clause. Adjective clauses are similar. Here's an example. That gets good gas mileage. You could probably come up with something to make it complete, like this. I want a car that gets good gas mileage. The clause, that gets good gas mileage, describes the noun car. And as we know, things that describe nouns are adjectives. So we will call this kind of clause an adjective clause. Our definition can be, an adjective clause is a clause that describes a noun. In other words, it gives extra information about the noun. Adjective clauses begin with a relative pronoun. We'll start with these: that, which, and who, or a combination of whose plus a noun. Let's look at some examples. I want a credit card that does not charge a yearly fee. The adjective clause, that does not charge a yearly fee, begins with that, and it describes the word card. We could also use the word which. The meaning of these two sentences is the same. In this next example, we're talking about a teacher, a person. So we'll use the word who as the relative pronoun. In informal speaking and writing, we often use that for people. However, since our goal is academic English, we're going to always use who for a person and that or which for things. Finally, we have the combination of whose plus a noun. The noun after whose belongs to the person in the main clause. You might think of these as the leader's policies or the policies of the leader. Let's look at where the adjective clause can appear in a sentence. In this first example, the adjective clause is describing the word man, which comes at the end of the sentence. So we have a complete sentence, we need to talk to the man, followed by an adjective clause, who processes the applications. Let's look at another example. In this case, the adjective clause follows the subject of the sentence, so it does not appear at the end. It appears inside the main clause, that is, it is between the subject and verb of the main clause. Customers want products is the main sentence in this next example. The adjective clause follows it. And finally, foods that are high in fat are not good for most people. The adjective clause, again, describes the subject. Let's look at the form of the verb in an adjective clause. The verb in an adjective clause, beginning with who, that, or which, has to agree with the noun that you are describing. So when you write the adjective clause, you have to think about the rule for a third person s when you are writing in the simple present tense. In this example, we spoke with some women who work for Google. The relative pronoun refers to women, which is plural. So the noun work does not have an s on the end. In the next example, who refers to the noun woman, which is singular. There's only one woman. So we have to add s to the verb in the simple present tense. The verb after a combination of whose plus a noun agrees with that noun. Here's an example. We spoke with a woman whose sons work for Google. In this case, we're looking at the word sons to decide if we need an s or not on the verb work. That was a lot of information. You might want to review before continuing with the practice. In this practice, you will read the following sentences and identify the adjective clause. Remember, it can come in the middle of the main sentence or after the main sentence. You'll have 3 seconds. You should read it out loud to yourself. The adjective clause is who arrived late. Number 2. Again, the adjective clause is who arrived late. That serves traditional dishes is the adjective clause this time. Which portray past events. And number 5. The adjective clause is that was left over from last night's party. Don't be confused by when we got home. Remember, that's a time clause. Number 6. That meets on Tuesday. Who helps with your problems? Who works at the front desk? Be careful. Speak French is part of the question. It is not part of the adjective clause. Add the relative pronoun that, which, who, or whose, and the correct form of the present tense verb in parentheses. I am friends with a guy who owns an ice cream store. Why did I put S on owns? Because the adjective clause is describing guy, a singular noun. Number 2. Who work? In this case, the verb does not have S because people is plural. Number 3, adolescents like books that or which have characters similar to themselves. Number 4, an apartment that or which has a view of the city is expensive. A student who studies hard will do well. Number 6, he is the teacher whose students eat in the classroom. Remember, eat does not have the S because this time it agrees with students, plural, not teacher, singular. Number 7, teens like the stores that or which carry all of the latest fashions. Number 8, whose wife works for the United Air. Number 9, the book which discusses evolution is required reading. You could also use that. Parents prefer teachers who require homework. To sum up, adjective clauses are incomplete clauses that have a relative pronoun and a verb. The relative pronouns we've been talking about so far, that, which, who, or a combination of whose plus a noun. Adjective clauses can come after the subject, in the middle of the sentence, or they can follow the last noun and come up at the end of the sentence. That, which, or who refer to nouns in the main sentence. We need to check that noun to choose the correct verb form in the simple present tense. The verb in the adjective clause with whose plus noun agrees with that same noun, not the noun in the main sentence.